All 6 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier are now streaming on Disney+. This has been going on for a few weeks now, but we can finally talk about it in its entirety. I've been waiting to do so, and there are going to be spoilers in this review. You have been warned. Without further ado, here we go. After the success of WandaVision, fans are waiting to see where the Phase 4 of the MCU would go next, and now here we are. And in this case, we are focusing on Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, played of course by Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan once again. And it's about how they're trying to navigate their lives post the decimation, the events of Endgame. Sam is wrestling with the idea of wanting to be a Captain America after Steve handed him the shield. And Bucky, on the other hand, is still wrestling with demons from when he was the Winter Soldier and the atrocities that he committed. And both of those things seem to be coming to a head. Eventually, a group called the Flag Smashers seems to be wreaking havoc around the world because they want to go back to the way things were when people were blipped away. And now that people have come back, they want to go back to that. And so they're causing some damage. And so Bucky and Sam have to step in and try to stop it. And at the same time, there is the fact that the world needs a new Captain America. And so the US government gives the shield to a man named John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell. And he takes up the mantle. But as everybody can tell, he's not Steve Rogers. There seems to be something about him that doesn't quite sit right with anybody, particularly our two main characters. This is a show that I was very, very interested in, and after having seen it, I think it's one of the more mature things Marvel has ever done. It may be the most mature thing that I've seen in the entire cinematic universe to date. It's also one of the more fascinating things because of its maturity. It tries to tackle some very heady themes and offer some very loaded commentary on some very important issues. I think this does fine, especially towards the latter half of the show. I think there are some flimsy attempts at it, however, in the first half of the show. So with that segue, I'll talk about my biggest weakness with the entire season, which is really the first half of it. It feels a bit scattered. And even though there are aspects of it that do eventually connect later on, and I'm not going to fault those that much, but there were certain things that just felt like they were ideas. They were put on screen, but you don't quite know how they were going to eventually coalesce. It also made for some frustrating viewing because of that. I also think that, and this is not exactly a knock on the show, but I also think that this is not something that should have got an episodic release. This is the kind of show that you watch either in one go or you make a movie out of it. Because that's essentially how it goes. It really broke the flow every week because going from one episode to the next on every Friday, it just didn't really add up. And there's a very likely scenario that the more times you watch it in succession, you might actually appreciate the storytelling a lot more. As it stands, it's just the way it was presented is just very muddled. And it's not like the pacing is off or anything. Like, it's action-packed. There's a lot of high-octane stuff going on. There's a lot of interesting character beats. You get Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl again, and he's in the latter half of the season too. It was great seeing him again, and it's also a great sign because he was the kind of villain who I didn't really like coin the term like, oh, he's an ultra villain. Zemo in this was the kind of villain that was more calculating. He decided to do nothing much while also just let the Avengers tear themselves apart, and so that ends up working a lot better. And so having this character now work with Bucky, who we already used as a Trojan horse for the Avengers, was incredibly fascinating. They also do some other 180s, especially with Sharon Carter, who is Peggy Carter's niece, of course, but she was also Agent 13 in the MCU movie so far. And now she is sort of playing someone who is on the wrong side of the law because of stuff that has happened in regards to the accords that were established. And so she's running things in a place called Madripoor right now, and she's known as the power broker. And so when you've got all of this going on and it's such a 180 from the character, it creates for other fascinating storytelling opportunities. Unfortunately, I feel like these two things could have been explored a lot more deeper than they are explored in the show that you're actually right now watching. And that was a bit of a shame to me. There are certain things that just seem very underdeveloped, and it's unfortunate. It eventually does find its focus in the second half of the season, the episodes 4, 5, and 6, but I wish it had found it sooner, and I wish that episode 5, the stuff that it addresses, it had a better introduction to those things in episode 2, because that's essentially what they're trying to close up in that 5th episode. I just wish there was a better job done of it. I know it sounds like I'm really reeling on this show, but I'm not. Overall, I do still like the show quite a bit, and I'll talk about my positives with you Like I said, the action, top notch. Whenever on screen there are punches being thrown, it's brilliantly shot. The choreography is magnificent. They brought Batroc back from Captain America the Winter Soldier. It was great seeing him again, and he's pretty awesome in a fight, man. He takes Falcon and Winter Soldier on with bare hands, and it's pretty damn amazing. And I really love watching that. The musical score by Henry Jackman, phenomenal. All of it is absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, I was a big fan of the way it was handling certain very timely themes and bringing those to a mainstream audience. Someone who is maybe a lot younger, probably watching this right now because he or she loves the MCU. They're probably looking at this right now and thinking, wow, that's very profound. Again, like I think they could have stuck the landing a little bit better in a few points of that storytelling aspect of it too. But nonetheless, I still like what they did with it. Race is a big part of this, obviously. Sam Wilson is a black man and being handed the shield of Captain America. So every moment feels like a challenge. So you sort of understand from a lot of perspectives, like, yeah, this is not exactly going to work in the in the way that people want it to work. Ask yourself, do you actually see a scenario where people would be pleased over the fact that a black man is Captain America? Or would they easily be pleased by that? Or would it be more pleasing if it was not a black man who was Captain America? You have to ask yourself that question. And you can say yes, and that's cool, but we all know that there is a part of our society which would be very upset by it because it'd just be this outlandish concept to even consider. But Sam Wilson as Captain America makes perfect sense. And of course, the show proves that with John Walker, because as that guy's descending, Falcon is just getting better and better. And so eventually you care when Sam Wilson picks up the shield and you fully understand the reasoning behind why he's chosen to do so and what he plans to accomplish by holding the shield rather than just using it as a cool frisbee thingy and taking out bad guys with it. There's, like I said, a lot to unpack in this show, and all of those things I think are downright remarkable. And eventually, when you get to the Flag Smasher stuff, a little more into it at least, you get to understand these characters too and their motivations. These are people who have essentially come to this point who had nothing. And so they volunteered for something so that they could make something. And then eventually, when the blip happened, they had a chance to have that, but then it was gone. And so I completely understand why in their minds, like even for their families, for friends, like this is the motivation that they're using to sort of get through day by day. I think there is something really profound in all of that. Like I said, my issues mostly just rely around the storytelling structuring of the first half of the season. That really messed around with the season for me for a while. And that's why the second half felt like one of those redemptions that was so sorely needed. Now there's going to be some polarizations in the ending as well, because again, it makes decisions that don't always, gel well with all the fans in the world, and I'm sure that's going to happen. But I can say for a fact that I really enjoyed the final product. John Walker, we got to talk about him because John Walker is somebody who is obviously going to become US agent at some point. But seeing his character descent was also incredibly fascinating. In a lot of ways, I may have even liked aspects of Walker more, not because I think he's not a likable character by any means. He's still an asshole. But the way that they were developing him in terms of making him like the worst person ever, and how they were sort of trying to tear down that image or sort of build around it as the show went on, was very, very good. It was easily one of the best things that they did, and I have full props to give them for that. It's a testament to just how good an actor Russell is and how good he is at playing this role. I have much praise to give to him. Like I said, eventually as the second half of the season kicks in and you're past the shrimp boat storyline also, which doesn't really, I don't know, I understand the emotional connect behind it, but I was having a hard time feeling it. You eventually start to get into the nitty-gritties. I haven't even mentioned Isaiah Bradley yet. Of course, he shows up and you get a very powerful, couple of monologues with him, especially the second one in episode 5. There's a scene with him which might be my favorite scene of the entire series, where he just talks to Anthony about how he once took up the shield after Steve went in the ice, and how he performed actions very similar to what Steve did in the first Avenger to save Bucky from the base in the first place when he first met Red Skull. And he got imprisoned for it for 30 years, whereas Steve was hailed as a national hero and he made headlines and everybody was singing praises of him. And so I completely understand, with that, what exactly they were trying to hone in on, and it's devastating. It also happens one other time during the season, and if you've seen the series finale, you probably know what exactly it is, but they don't exactly spell it out loud. But you can sort of see it. It's like, oh, that happened, but this would, like, over here this happened, so that's a little strange for me. Also, while we're on it, it was really nice seeing Io again from Black Panther. It was great to see her and some of the other Dora Milaje. It was great. That was pretty cool. Also, we have to talk a little bit about Madame Hydra because she shows up and it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and that was cool. She's going to corrupt John Walker. John Walker's thing is also interesting to me because of what he does in episode 4, because that is by far the most grotesque moment we've seen in the entire MCU, where he kills the man with the shield, the other Flag Smasher, who he believes killed his partner. But that's obviously not what happened. It was Carly who did it. And of course, you have Carly's, you have her confrontation that comes in later into the show as well. I found her character to also be very, very compelling as things eventually went on. There are so many things to unpack in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There are a lot of things I really like about it. There were also some things that I was disappointed by. There were moments where it really was one of the best things Marvel did. At some points, it was the most disappointing and most muddled thing Marvel ever did. But overall, I can't say I didn't enjoy the show. I still did. I appreciated the action. I appreciated the performances. Everybody is really good in this. And I appreciated the writing when it hit. When it really hit, it was great. And episode 5 by far is my favorite episode because it essentially honed in on that concept of, just having these moments between characters and addressing things, and they knocked it out of the park with that. And so that is easily my favorite episode of the entire series. But I did enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing it again now in one go because I feel like it's all going to flow better, it's all going to be better. And I encourage maybe to do the same. Who knows? Might actually work out. I'm going to give The Falcon and the Winter Soldier a B. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. I'll see you guys at the movies.